Looking at this thing, I want to give credit, where it is due. Whether you agree with it or whether you don't agree with it, that is something that is, up for debate. But the work that Rutendo has said Kuti has done, it brings real political capital because he positioned himself as an anti-sanctions activist. He's positioned himself as somebody that is engaged in regional bodies, talk about SADC, AU, and international, audience. He has done that. He has framed sanctions as a structural injustice. To say, "Kuti, how can you level my sanctions on Zimbabwe? And yes, Zimbabwe has never appeared before uh, a court of law where Zimbabwe has been found guilty of having done the things that are being leveled against them. And outside of that, it is not a viable position to be saying that we are imposing sanctions on you because you've not found, this country not guilty. Or you've not found, the leaders, guilty because there's no competent court of law that is presided over the issues. Zamuruta what I mean. For you to then come out and say, "Good, so yes, we need to impose, sanctions, and it." And I also look at him as a person that is defended the sovereignty of the nation. That narrative is, is stuck with him. Whether you agree with him or not, but if you're looking at his effort, the consistency, that is had, the visibility that is had, is an individual that has built a unique political brand. And I'll explain why that has worked, to his advantage. And this is why folks, are saying, "Kuti," or you guys, you're viewing him as a sellout or somebody, that is going to be watering down, his, you know, his, rhetoric. But what he has managed to do is something that gives him, leverage, something that gives him influence, and as well as the constituency and the reputation as a fighter. And it should not be surprising that you get a Rana Tungwarara of this world coming in, and engaging him, much to the chagrin of Warakashi, because they are not understanding, what is going on. But the work that he says he has done, supported by the evidence, that is put out there, it will give you an explanation as to why the state is prepared to engage him, even via people like, Tungwarara, who says Kutizo, he is standing, for the, for the president. This is where the aspect of game theory, comes in. This is where game theory comes in to meet, the political reality of what is happening in Zimbabwe. Because to me, Arutendo is not coming in just as another online political, commentator. Because that is what, folks, are relegating him to be. Just another online political, commentator. Because he's way more than that. If you want to take the work that is done as factual, it means Kuti, he has gone on to defend the country internationally. He has fought narratives that were put out there. He has taken personal risks. You've heard him, say that his business, tanked. Is everything relationship, that he, used to enjoy and have, they tanked. But at the end of the day, what the state, and this is quite, fundamental and quite, important. Nobody has come in and has disputed this, factual. Apart from the propaganda that gets, put out there. There's nobody that has come in and disputed that the state Zimbabwe has seen Rutendo as useful, has seen him as an experienced person in what he does. Not could you have seen him not being experienced in what he does. And him being in a position to be shaping the narratives, that are out there. So when he becomes a critic of Cap 3, I want people to understand and know Kuti. This is an individual who's not being treated as an individual disaster or dissenter. Somebody was speaking. He's not like me. He's not like you. And the reason why he's not like me, he's not like you, is on the basis of the things that I've outlined. So his criticism gained much traction on social media because that is where he was doing it. It matters to such an extent that there are people that saw what he was doing is damaging to the Cap 3 narrative, damaging to the Second Republic image, damaging to the image of the president, damaging to the image of the first family and, their children. So how do you deal with such a situation? Is it that you accommodate them, you bring them into the fold, you recognize them, and you give them that gesture that is symbolic and is evidenced by the work that you might not agree with, but they themselves know it because they're the ones that got him to do what he did according to what. Because if you hear the narrative that is being put forward, by Tungwarara, there's an acknowledgement. Iripo, you would either show and we need to appreciate. We need to recognize you. We need to give you a seat on the table. I asked him, go to, oh, this seat on the table, who are you, represent? But that is neither here or there. But the fact that Kuti, there are these things, that he's coming in with. He's got a bag in our weapons. And we are now. Because what is done, according to his evidence, and the fact that there isn't any much in terms of pushback that is coming from the administration, in Harare. There's every reason, or there's everything that can give you a reason to want to believe, Kuti, what this gentleman, is talking about, speak to something that is in existence. Whether you agree with it or not, that is an entirely, different, ball game. But your question must be on why is it there's an attempt to want to soften him? Why is it there's an attempt to want to bring him onto the table? Why are they not bringing in these other, guys onto the table, onto the negotiation, table? Why are they not bringing in Mutisi? I know good in Mutisi at one hand, but I just want to give him, the benefit of the doubt. He has never gone against whatever it is that is happening, but he's a staunch supporter. Why is coming onto the table to say we want to weaponize you and get things going? So the point that I'm trying to bring into this conversation is to say, Kuti, not Kuti, I'm favoring him, or not Kuti, I've got a soft spot for him. For all I care, Rutendo, me and I, we've never, seen, eye to eye, apart from the last, few months. He can come in and attest, to that. And there are spaces and Rutendo, I don't remember now. Not good, I'm now compromised, no. But there is something, that is happening. There's an awakening that is there. That is making me to be in a position Yandiri, where I find, myself, today. So whether you want to argue against, his sanctions work, I've seen, folks, saying, how come, the president is still on the Magnitsky, or how come to Kudakwashe Tagwirei is still on there? But he said it, Kutizo. He wanted Tagwirei to come out and provide the evidential evidence that was going to be working, in favor. But Tagwirei kept on, pushing him. And up to now, he has not provided, that. It means Kutizo is okay. Pahari Papo is okay because I don't know what, is benefiting. But Rutendo is repeatedly, not reportedly, he has repeatedly said he has worked for so many ways. For so many years, he has put in a lot of work, sacrifice. He has risked so much in terms of even his safety. He has defended Zimbabwe internationally. But all this is coming with no recognition. And probably, not probably, but because of the understanding, that was there in the beginning, to say, good, whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to be remunerated, you're going to be paid. Daindirini and Omarini now go to town, demanding my money. Mutemo urume don't ashana happy mariake. And this call for patriotism, it doesn't work. It doesn't apply here. In India, in under a promise of Buddhism, mufana undipa mari yangu, ndipe mari yangu, give me my money. Give me what is owed to me, what is due to me, give me. Because the mari yangu, I have exerted, effort. The Sunday I need to get paid. So if I demand my payment, you cannot turn around and say, good, look at him. Why is it, he's demanding money, he's not, patriotic. No, 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 no. Even behind, patriotism, people eat. These folks, that we're talking about here, how many millions they are just, distributing, out there. This is where we don't get it. You come to me, you engage me, I expect, to be paid if you make that, that promise. But if I agree to do this, a pro bono, to say, good, I'm not even going to be accepting anything, from you. You can, you can put me out there. To say, but how can you come here and say, Gudizo, where you want to be paid when you say, Gudizo, you don't want, to be paid? So sometimes we need to look at things as they are supposed to be looked at. Because to me, when I'm looking at this, yes, my Gudizo is not being, compromised, but to me, he's not compromised. He's just a political actor who's responding to my incentives, recognition, and the strategic engagement in Gagaitika. Because my promises are now, and the person is supposed to, be paid. We know good the politics is a dirty game. We know good the politics people, makes, sacrifices. But have you ever noticed? Could the generality you're asked, to sacrifice was those who are in the inner? And this even happens in the opposition. Could it very close, to the thing they are being paid? Once you are being asked, to make a sacrifice. The work that he has done gives him, leverage, makes him, valuable. This is why they are engaging him. If he was not valuable, if his voice, did not matter, if whatever it is, that he said yesterday was not of consequential, there was no need for Tungwarara, to come and try to say, good, I'm giving you a 3,000 thing, a 300 thing, and I'm giving you, in addition to that, I'm giving you 200,000, 300,000, US dollars. But the question has to be, is this a society that we want to live under? Is this what we want as Zimbabwean people? If an individual can be given that amount of money for doing the things, that he did, which could have been solved by the country addressing situation yawo yavangeni vainayo, probably we could not be having Rutendo of this world paying them, so much money. But that is the society, that is, that has been created. And we need to fight against that. We need to push back against that. Everybody has got a purpose. But it is unfortunate that when it comes to the aspect of political logic in Zimbabwe, everything has to do with one's, stomach. It is no longer about, the collective. Everyone that you are seeing, right now, trying to push, a narrative, they are benefiting one way or the other at the expense of the Zimbabwean people. And that is what hurts me, and that is what angers me. Some of us, when you speak, we are speaking from a position. You understand what Zimbabwe could have been and what Zimbabwe ought to be. There are legends, that have come and gone. Some wanted to change, the situation, but they couldn't. They tried to do it individually, but they couldn't. But we call upon Zimbabweans from all walks of life to say, Kuti, we cannot continue to live under these circumstances. There are people that should have disappeared from the scene who continue to be in our presence. And they want to continue to dictate how things should be for us. And yet we've got generations upon generations where we can get leaders from that can steer the ship in the direction that is supposed to be steered. And the Mbinga culture has gotten hold, and right now we are at the mercy of these people. We are at the mercy of these people. When are we going to be called and stand up as Zimbabwean people? When is your time going to come? Is your time now? Or your time is going to be when you are 6 feet, down under? And what is that going to do? When you're 6 feet, down, 6 feet under, can you not stand up and be counted today? Can you not take it upon yourself to say, Gudizo, I need to fight for a Zimbabwe? A Zimbabwe that was fought for. The liberation struggle gave back to Zimbabwe in 1980. And those, that know, their history, were supposed to have gained our independence in 1979. But anyway, that is the Zimbabwe, that was birthed. That is Zimbabwe, that we have. So what kind of Zimbabwe, do you want? 46, 7 years now. 46, 7 years now. And we're still arguing over what is good Zimbabwe, should be looking like. When you see people trying to communicate a good Zimbabwean story, it means Kutizo, Zimbabwe has failed to to produce a story that is positive, for its people, for her people. God yes. God yes. Where the S?
Zviri sei yangu Judge?
Havana vazize?
Hapana baba. Did right? How are you? And how's everybody in the space? No, inini I was hearing yours and Rutendo's submissions. Then I also heard my opinions. Angachita sei ngachitaurawo nevanhu pamwe pacho ndachimbo-drifta ndichitaenda ndichita but ndanchiteerera. And now I want to ask you this, Uncle Jed. Germany has a go so. Yeah, I want to ask you this, Uncle Jed. For as long as you mentioned earlier, Johnny, you recently started engaging again in Rutendo for the last few months, after a period of possibly non-communications towards each other, for as long as that, has Rutendo not made it clear EHR and what he's advocating for? That being compensation, yes, Akaita.
No. That wasn't part and parcel of whatever conversation that was happening.
No, I'm saying Mimi, for as long as you've heard the Rutendo advocate for space, Nechichi, and so forth, has he not also mentioned Wudujoni, Pabasara, Akaita, sanctions, and so forth, he would like compensation? So no matter
he's on record, saying
he's being straightforward, and it.
Yes.
Sakatukusha Misike. I fail to understand Wudujoni. Chatukunyanyosha Misika stereki Wudujoni. Vacho vari kuti zvoni vanhu imi hamuna kundipa maiju what's the word, remittances or no my due payment for the work basa randakaitaka. They are now starting to come vachimu offer zvinhu. Why should we be so surprised? I don't get it. Because for me, like you rightly said, the whole sanctions issue, for it to have been burdened on an individual shoulder, shows some form of failure on the ability of state to release some sanctions actually and to prove the illegality of those sanctions and to have them removed as a state. And then having to go and outsource freelance help ya Rutendo wacho kuti zvoni weduwe isusu tine patikuita sei patikukoniwa chimboisa your spice on this. At the end of the day, the way I look at it, the bigger question should be, is Rutendo flip-flopping from what he's been talking about, standing against Cape 3 and him wanting to see service deliverance? Because when I started paying attention to what Rutendo was saying and speaking about, is when he started raising issues about how are you advocating for an extension when you haven't provided like reta achievement, my achievements the government entity. That's when I started paying attention that. But this argument, you can't argue against it. Munhu arikutouya kana mafacts ekuti imi muri kuda muda extension, but ngatitarise kuti basa ramukuita riri kuwaranta extension here maona. So the way I look at it, I don't think it's also right on his part to sort of mention kuti as though ndiye ega akaita kuti my sanctions are removed. There were so many people who played a part. And like another person, I can't remember who, I think the Padara Atumbotauro, sanctions in their entirety were not removed, and there's still some form of sanctions aripo towards Zimbabwe. So, in my opinion, muno asina uya aka muno akauya asina kuvanza what he's fighting for. So I don't blame him. At the end of the day, zvakwari kuti acha flip flopper here going forward. But in terms of ndauya inini, I've been contracted to look at the automation in fact remain Uncle Jed's and it. ndouya ndogadzira zvinhu zvanga zvichikundikanwa nema-in-house engineers enyu ka mundipa mari yangu ndoenda ka zvichaitika mangwana izvo yatova imwe nyaya. In my view ndo zvirikuita kunge zvakaitika nana Rutendo neTeam iri kuti from the start he was saying, guys, inini I haven't been compensated for this work that I've been doing. That's where most of his grievances seemed to, arise from. And he wasn't, shy about saying it openly. Inini, I did this, I should be compensated for it. I'm not gonna but that's how I feel about the whole issue. And correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's me that's missing the point. But the only time Yandaka engaged in Rutendo was, I think, when we had the space where he was talking about a lot of things within the deep state politics of Zimbabwe. But outside of that, I haven't heard him flip-flop. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have you heard him flip-flop? My convictions are in I stand.
No. Yeah,
he hasn't hidden his sort of agenda.
In terms of what is due to him, he's not
He's not.
flip-flop.
Saka I don't think we shouldn't be surprised or vindicate him or vilify him. Sorry, kuti iwe say you've sold out. He was clear. Apana akamboda kuzama kumuzoni iwo usandopiwa mari iyoyo ikoko tinokupa mari.
I think you missed some of the points that was raised by Uncle Jeds in his presentation just minutes ago, because he did highlight that the fact that some individual has to come in to say they are going to be doing something that a government is meant to be doing.
I did touch on that on Gap. I touched on that.
But no, the point there is to say that even him earlier when he arrived, he did mention to say, he said to Tungarara, the fact that you do boreholes in a city where they're supposed to be running water just shows that there's something wrong there. So these are some of
all those things are things that you even have alluded to. You've spoken about. I've spoken about. A lot of people in these spaces have spoken about things like that. In India, ancingotaura nyaya yekuti hatifani kuvhunduka semamwe opinions andanzwa panapa as if it should be taboo kuti zvoni munhu aakunzi zvoni shamwari takukupa 200,000 initially pamari dzako that you are owed. Because
no, but what people are saying now is to say, Iwewe, are you not doing the same bore strategy on Cape 3 instead of making sure that the city is running water? That's why people are now questioning, when you ask, has he not flip-flopped? That's where the flip-flop is. Because when you say there's something wrong, the city doesn't have water, and you're supposed to be fixing the running water systems, and then you go ahead and then say that section is now getting a borehole and we're supposed to celebrate you. So Cape 3 in its entirety has problems. But when you start highlighting a few pointers and say that this can be resolved by this, which is a referendum, you are just doing a borehole strategy on this problem. So that's the flip-flopping that we are talking about. But he says he doesn't want to fight a fight that nobody else wants to fight. He's doing what he can, and if he gets paid along the way, that's his business. You shouldn't question him on that.
He has the right
to say that
on record on this space and earlier spaces. Kuti he's still against Cape 3. He's now changed it on. Do you understand where I'm coming from now? Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I missed the party. He's now advocating for Cape 3. That's where my point is. I didn't hear the guy flip-flopping. Maona.
And the nice
thing, are you going to speak truth to power?
Yeah.
when you go to that negotiating table, I
Both
ask,
your
you know, that
question and mine was ignored, Tano. You went on a tangent in the
I
opposite
asked
direction.
him.
You didn't address that.
But guys,
But
the good
Can I
thing,
ask a
Uncle, I just want
question?
to
Saka
contribute.
ndo
Oh,
patiri kuda
Gerald.
kuchinzwisisa manje yangu Jed kuti munhu is he going to flip flop or not, because clearly right now he would have said no, I'm not taking this car, I'm not taking this money. He would have taken a stand. But
No, the money is taken,
do you
and
understand? Meaning we have no power to stop the
the 200,000 he
No,
said, the 200,000 he said, much appreciated, Doc, and I've taken
do you
your
understand now?
words. I will not
Meaning
bring the
isusu
president, first
panyaya
lady,
yake
first
yaifaitika
women in the
yemari yake
political,
yekubhadharwa
debates.
we
But
are
he's
not
not
going to
saying with
stop
this,
it
I'm taking,
clearly.
but he's just saying what I am acknowledging.
Uncle
Saka manje
Jen, can
tauda
I
kutoona
also
kuti achachinja here panyaya yake yeCape 3, but as
That
for
is
mari
something,
dzake
that we
we
are
have no
waiting
power to
for.
stop it.
That is something that we are waiting to
Ndinisa
find out now.
to discuss econet panapa. We are discussing a company. Tofanira kutotaura nemamwe makambani vana Delta vanani, because Rutendo is a company. He's doing it for money. He's not
And he's
doing
been
it
clear
for
about that.
anything. Yes, so why are we discussing a company that is, if possible, you can even list it on stock exchange?
Mr. Owen
He is,
Chari,
yeah?
Mr. Chimbonzwai, angojedha vaita so. Angojedha vaita some politics. Dziri right, dzisiripo. When people wanted to point out kuti Rutendo, you are being a mercenary, angojedha changed the direction. Vakati, no, let's not have such kind of an approach. Ndozvaita angojedha. Kuti munhu wese pati iwewe Rutendo nyaya iyi mamiriro ayakaita. Because if you look at it properly, kubva nana wikino vachiti no, iwewe kana uchiti you are patriotic, why then uri kuda kubhadharwa? Iye achiramba achitaka kuramba, but pangouya
Exactly.
matokens ayaya, ende honaika, you need to also understand kuti vana Tungwarara haasi in good books nana Tagwirei. So most probably you have Tungwarara ari kutsvaka vamwe vanhu vanotaurisa kuisa mukempi make.
Yeah, but guys,
Ikambani,
can I
ini,
come in, guys?
ikambani.
Can I also come in? Rute,
Ngatisataure nyaya dzemabasa ekuma